Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling this Platting Board meeting to order at 1 p.m. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Yes. Plotting member Shavetta.
Here.
Plotting member Liebing.
Here.
Plotting member Cohn.
Here.
Plotting member Salmon.
Here.
Plotting member Trexler.
Present.
Plotting member Krieger.
Present.
And plotting member Burtz.
Present.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and if we will stand for the pledge, Eric will lead. Are there any objections to the agenda or changes? No. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move we approve the agenda for March 6, 2025.
Second. Thank you. Can I get approval for the minutes? For last meeting.
I'd move to approve the minutes.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Now, there's no unfinished business. There's no reconsiderations or appeals. So we have Greenfields 19-1. The request is to create 5 lots from Block 1, Lot 19, Greenfields subdivision, plat number 77-119, to be known as Greenfields 19-1, containing 5.77 acres plus or minus. The property is located north of North Pittman Road, west of North Church Road, and directly east of North Autumn Lane, within the southeast section, quarter section 19, Township 18 North, Range 01 West, Seward Meridian, Alaska, in the Meadow Lakes Community Council in an Assembly District number 7. So, ex parte. Do you or any member of your immediate family have a substantial financial interest in any property affected by this decision, or will you recognize a foreseeable profit as a result of this decision? Seeing none. Have you received or otherwise engaged in ex parte contact with the applicant, other parties interested in the application, or members of the public concerning the application or issues presented in this application, either before the application or during any period of time the matter is submitted for decision, outside of the public process provided by the borough? Seeing none. Are you able to be impartial in this decision? Very good. Staff report, please. Oh, mailings. I knew I was missing some. Sorry. Madam Clerk, the mailings?
Yes, there was 42 public notices mailed February 11th, 2025.
Thank you. Staff report, please.
Borough Platting staff, my name is Wyatt Anderson. Staff report for Greenfields 19-1. The proposed Greenfields 19-1 subdivision will create 5 lots varying in sizes from 1.02 acres up to 1.25 acres. Access for the proposed lots is from North Autumn Lane, which is a borough-owned and maintained roadway. The parent parcel fronts on North Pittman Road, which is a state of Alaska owned and maintained roadway. A geotechnical report was submitted pursuant to MSB 4320281A. Bill Klebesaddle, professional engineer, notes test holes were excavated to a minimum of 12 feet. Test hole location map and soils log are attached. Test hole 1 and 3 are classified as SP soils. Test hole 2 was classified as both SP and SW soils. No groundwater was encountered. All lots contain sufficient overall area. All lots have at least 10,000 square feet of usable building area, and all have at least 10,000 square feet of contiguous usable septic area. The topographic map and as-built are at exhibit pages 8 through 10. For comments, ADOT NPF notes that all lots are to take access from North Autumn Lane. This is seen at staff recommendation number 4. Subsequent development and subdivision of Lot 1 will require continued access through North Autumn Lane. No new utility connections through Pittman Road or Pittman Road right-of-way. Please be advised that this plat is within the boundary of DOT and PF project HSIP, Pittman Road shoulder widening and slope flattening, which may affect Lot 1. MSB Development Services notes that Pittman Road is a major collector and no new access points should be established to maintain traffic flow and safety. Additional access points contribute to congestion and increase the risk of accidents. This is seen at staff recommendation number 4. There were no objections received from any federal or state agencies, borough departments, or utilities. There was one objection received from the public in response to the notice of public hearing. See handout number 1. There was one concern received from the public in response to the notice of public hearing. See handout number 2. There was one comment in support of the proposed subdivision received from the public in response to the notice of public hearing. See exhibit page 24. In conclusion, the proposed Greenfields 19-1 subdivision is consistent with Alaska statutes and borough code. There were no objections received from any federal or state agencies, borough departments, or utilities. There were 3 comments received from the public in response to the notice of public hearing. A soils report was submitted certifying all lots have the required usable area pursuant to code. All lots have the required legal and physical access. Staff recommends approval of the proposed Greenfields 19-1 subdivision with 6 findings of fact and 7 recommendations of conditions of approval.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Does anybody have any questions for staff? Seeing none? And then public comment. Is the petitioner or the representative present wanting to speak? They are not. I'm going to open for public testimony. No, nobody's online? Nobody's here? Okay, that's closed. I would entertain a motion from the board.
I move to approve the preliminary plat of Greenfields 19-1, Section 19, Township 18 North, Range 01 West, Seward Meridian, Alaska, contingent on staff recommendations 1 through 7 and findings and facts 1 through 6.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been approved. On to the next one.
They held a meeting and nobody showed up.
That would be easy, wouldn't it? Okay, the second item up is the Cove at Jean Lake. The request is to create 33 lots from Lot 4, Long Birch, plat number 98-126, and tax parcel B4, created by warranty deed recorded at 1999-013702-0, to be known as the Cove at Jean Lake, containing 128.37 acres plus or minus. The proposed design will include a gated entry with private internal roads. The property is directly west of Jean Lake, directly east of West Long Lake Road, within the north half and south half section 19, T19 North, Range 4 West, Seward Meridian, Alaska, in the Willow Community Council in Assembly District Number 7. To the board, do you or any member of your immediate family have a substantial financial interest in any property affected by this decision, or will you recognize a foreseeable profit as a result of this decision? Seeing none, have you received or otherwise engaged in ex parte contact with the applicant, other parties interested in the application, or members of the public concerning the application or issues presented in this application, either before the application or during any period of time the matter is submitted for decision, outside of the public process provided by the borough? Seeing none, are you able to be impartial in this decision? Very good. Madam Clerk, the mailing?
Yes, there was 97 public notices mailed February 11th, 2025.
Thank you. Staff report?
Thank you, Chair. Chris Curlin, Platting staff. The proposed subdivision is creating 33 lots ranging in size from 1.33 acres to 54.55 acres. The proposed lots will take access from West Long Lake Road, an ADOT and PF maintained road. The proposed internal roads will be private. A soils report was submitted by Bill Klebesaddle, professional engineer, and is available at Exhibit B, stating, based on the available soils and water table information, topography, and MSB Title 43 code definitions, and observations at the site, each lot will have at least 10,000 square feet of usable building area and at least 10,000 square feet of contiguous usable septic area, as required by MSB 4320-281 area. Comments were received from U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Alaska Department of Transportation, MSB Pre-Design and Engineering, and NSTAR. At the time this staff report was written, there were no comments received from the notice of public hearing. Since that time, 6 comments were received and are available in the handouts. Platting staff would like to add the following to the recommended conditions of approval. Number 11, provide document for private road maintenance to platting staff. And number 12, increase flag width of Lot B 4B to 60 feet or greater. In conclusion, the cove at Jean Lake is consistent with state statutes and borough code. A soils report was submitted pursuant to MSB 4320-281. All lots have the required usable area. All lots have the required frontage pursuant to MSB 4320-320. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat of the cove at Jean Lake based on these 5 findings of fact and now 12 recommendations of conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curlin. Is there any questions for staff? Seeing none? Oh,
I would like this time, I did receive an email from one of the members of the Platting Board asking for clarification about some comments that DOT had made and why we hadn't made them conditions of approval. There's DOT can make requirements and they can make recommendations. If they require something like the shared access, they control the access. If they're going to require that, then we have to make that a condition of approval. If they recommend something, it's kind of up to the petitioner if they wish to do what is recommended or asked for. We can't require there's a difference between what's required and what's requested. So I just wanted to clarify that now for everybody. We got the email earlier in the week and I could have fired off something to everybody, but I figured here in the public forum was the easiest way to address it. So just wanted to bring that up at this time.
thank you, Mr. Wagner.
I do have a question for staff. Again, we have access. We have one entry and exit point. Were we not trying to get 2 exits in that regard? So what I guess I'm asking is was that a consideration?
Through the chair, I don't think it was as far as the interconnectivity on this one.
To further clarify on that, with 33 lots, we don't reach a point where the road, we don't necessarily require secondary access. We don't have anything in our code that says X amount has to have a secondary access. But what we do look at is the standard of the road. And with 33 lots being created, it stays well within the residential number for a residential lot subdivision, so we don't make that a requirement at this time. If, per se, they were to bring the large tract in the future to subdivide, I don't know, we still can't get to it, but, yeah. It's the design that's allowed, and we don't have there's nothing in our code that says that secondary access has to be provided. It can be, if you do secondary access, if you have, let's say this did trip a number of lots and they wanted to keep residential roads, a secondary access would allow them to split that traffic count. They could keep the roads that way. So it was something we did look at when we updated the subdivision construction manual, but the decision was made that we got wider roads and wider shoulders, and for the time, that will suffice.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, would the petitioner or the petitioner's representative like to speak?
Yeah, Mr. Pilch, you haven't been here in a while. What we do is you can do a brief period and just give an oversight for a few minutes, and then we'll let the public talk, and then you get called back up to answer those questions. Thank you.
I'm Paul Pilch, surveyor of record on this project, and I haven't been here in a while, and you kind of wonder if I should be here. But yeah, I'll sign in and I'll kind of give you an overview. Okay, there's some of the suggestions, like on Sides Lane, the DOT requested that we do a common entrance. And before, we used to have like the highway maintenance guys review the site, and like the platting used to come and take pictures of the site. Well, the Sides Lane is really a bad intersection as it exists. And right across where this subdivision is, there's quite a hole. And so the site distance to the north right now, especially in the winter, is 0 for Sides Lane. So that was the reasoning behind not doing a common 4-way entrance. The continued path through Lot 4, the gravel pit, if you notice, there's like a 30-foot drop there that's going to be reclaimed into the pit. And the pit is at an elevation now that residential lots probably couldn't sustain groundwater closeness. So that will probably remain one big tract. The gravel pit has been there for years, and I understand this is the last year of operation there. So they're going to reclaim that area. Suggestions were for a storage area or something on that order. So the property that is subdivided into the 33 lots, it's nice wooded, level, rolling. Soils are suitable. And it was interesting, DOT's comments. I guess a site view would probably be better, because I can understand they're requesting no entrance from the lots along Long Lake. But if you notice right across, there's 9 lots that are entering. So I can understand their thoroughfare suggestion there. So, any questions?
I have one. I'm curious about the question, or where the placement of the gate to the entrance of the subdivision is going to be. Is it going to be by the road, or is it going to be inset down the road?
The gate? Or
It says it's gated, right?
yeah, and it's 100 feet plus inside the subdivision.
Oh, okay.
And the area improved at Long Lake is gonna be wider, because there was talk of doing mailboxes. So, you know, this is ongoing, it keeps growing. So, but that was one of the biggest things. The minimum of 100 feet from Long Lake Road right away was where the gate's gonna be.
Okay, thank you. I will open for public testimony now.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Tim Potter, P-O-T-T-E-R. My wife and I purchased the peninsula up in the northeast corner of the lake over 25 years ago. And on the maps, it's identified as SLA 9619, I believe, track 2, about 4.5 acres. We've enjoyed it all those years, bringing up our son there. And now his sons, our grandsons, are enjoying that, as well as all the activities in the valley, snow machining, running the rivers, canoeing, kayaking, all that we've done. We have, and I have, several concerns that I'd like to go through today and at least put them out for your consideration, because Jean Lake is a small lake, shallow, and does not have an inflow or an outflow. So it's particularly sensitive to any environmental impacts. And when you have a condition like that, based on my experience, that you need to err on the side of trying to do the best you can to guarantee sustainability of that asset. And the lake is an asset, but if it turns into a septic pit or algae blooms and it dies off because there's no oxygen dissolved in the water, there's a very slow replenishment of that. And the damage would take much longer, if possible, to retrieve and back it up. And, you know, the soils are good on the site. I'll admit that. There weren't any perk tests. The interesting thing about on-site septic systems is that the soils are very, very important. The groundwater table is very, very important. Slopes and topo are very important. But the design, the construction, installation, and long-term maintenance and operational care of a septic system is what's really important. And when you crowd that frontage with 12 lots that are all effectively minimum lot width, with a steep drop down to the lake, if there's a failure of one of those systems or more, and with more systems, there's more opportunities for failures as ownership or operation requirements may change over time. I don't know who's going to be there in 5, 10, 30 years, and whether they're going to be attentive to the needs to stay on top of their maintenance and operation. So with that and the steep slopes down to the lake, erosion control and clearing operations, both during the clearing and if larger lawns are put in and anyone uses a high nitrogen fertilizer or moss killers or weed killers or pesticides, they are really subject to surface flows down to the lake with any heavy precipitation, snow melt, anything. And those are things that you just can't back out of the system when there's no refreshing of that water. The Cove at Jean Lake is a really sexy name, and it's a great name for a subdivision, especially a gated, exclusive subdivision. But it seems to me, if I were laying this out, which I wish I would have been able to, I would have reduced the number of lots on the waterfront. I would have consolidated probably the 3 or 4 lots that are uphill of the Cove, which is largely a wetland bog area and not open water lake. And I would have made that a subdivision private park for all of the residents in the subdivision, so that everybody that had a back lot all the way to Long Lake Road would have the benefit as part of the HOA that's going to be required for the gate maintenance and operation, snow plowing and maintenance of the road, that this park would be available for all of those lots to utilize. There could be a controlled built dock on the northeast side of the peninsula, on the north side of the Cove, a couple of tree houses built, a couple of picnic tables, and that value would then be transferred and be able to be realized by the owner developer by charging more for the lots that are behind the waterfront. You know, I always ask myself, what would drive me to be interested in a location? And at a gate, add security, don't have any access to the water. So why don't I just buy a really nice lot that has a long driveway? I can put my own gate up and I'm secure as this would be. And I wouldn't have to pay a homeowners association due. So looking at the second map in the package, there is an indication very simply of what area is currently subdivided as lots, and that is the pink color. And the yellower color is the waterfront lots proposed in this subdivision. So you can see that about 3/4 of the lake is embodied in 23 lots. And yet the proposed subdivision has 12 waterfront lots and only 1/4 of the frontage area. And everybody likes to say, well, they meet the minimum lot requirements. Well, that's one scope of reviewing things to see if it meets that minimum. But what's appropriate, what's right, and what leads to a sustainable development needs to be considered as well. So on the last map, map 3, I just quickly last night identified the waterfront lots, took 3 lots at the end of the entry road and made that the community or subdivision holistic park that could be enjoyed by all of the lots. And the 2 lots at the north, there's actually 3 lots that are in the proposed plat. If you look at the topography, there is a small little oval or circle in the middle lot. And that is representative of not a peak, but a hole. So from the edge of the right-of-way, you're dropping down into potentially a 5 to 10 foot hole. And that lot then has to go down to get access and back up again, and then doesn't have that much of a good spot to build on that doesn't implicate the slopes. So I've rerouted the center line by combining the lots so that you have 2 fully functional, great lots that have excellent building locations and don't cause anybody to butcher the middle lot to try and get onto a building site in that location. So my background is pretty odd. I had a developer in Western Washington put me on a small International Harvester C500 bulldozer when I was 15 years old. And he said, go over there on that acre lot and push dirt. And when you get good at it, I'll start paying you. And I got good really fast. And the next summer in high school, I ran a 6-person crew developing a 160-acre residential recreational property in Birch Bay, Washington by the Canadian border. Built horse trails, put in a pool, built the roads, cleared each parcel so that when people came to buy, they could see how they could actually use that piece of land. And it was a great experience. Every year beyond that, I continued working for that same developer and grew in how much role I played, and then in graduate school running his development company. And we did commercial and industrial parks, development of the land and the buildings in Kirkland, Washington, a very big project. Then another one in Anacortes, Washington. And then the last one that I worked for him on was a 60-acre old farm field right off the highway in Mount Vernon, Washington, developing that as a commercial, industrial, and retirement home, age 55 plus residential development. And it's still operating very well, has a grocery store, all kinds of stuff. So I got that experience while I was going to school. My undergraduate was ecological systems analysis from Huxley College of Environmental Studies, located at Western Washington University. Then I went back for graduate studies and went 2 years to do regional and environmental planning, all the time continuing to work with that developer on projects, coming to board meetings, working with the survey staff and the platting and zoning people at all the different jurisdictions. Then I was hired as a planning director in Gig Harbor, Washington, a small town of 3,500 people, kind of like Balmer, that had about 3,500 people, but serviced 25 to 30,000 residents in the peninsula area outside of Tacoma. And after a year there, I was asked to come up to Anchorage and visit and interview for a job as a planner with Dow Engineers. And I came up, my interview was in a 185 on floats on headphones. I was offered the job. My wife and I had always talked about coming up here for an experience, an adventure. We thought we'd be up here for 2 years, and it's now 44 years later. So in 1981, that summer, we drove up Alcan in a little 1978 Subaru wagon with 2 kayaks on top.
Sir, we appreciate your testimony, but you're way over your 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll wrap up. But for 40 years, I worked at Dow, retired recently, was an owner partner for 35 years, and have done many, many entitlement processes, including plats. And in my memo, I indicate some of the projects, just to give you an indication of the scale and complexity. But I'd really appreciate it if you would consider the sustainability concern for Jean Lake. Like I say, I'm not a NIMBY. I've been in development my whole life, but I believe in good development and proper development and development that reflects doing the right thing for the land. And I think this subdivision needs some work. I would recommend that possibly they redesign it or consider doing a consolidation of lots into a subdivision park. And I will comment on the access issue. Straight roads aren't necessarily my cup of tea, but I think it's fine here as far as the subdivision design goes. And I would not place the entry road any further north. Well, I put it further north. I wouldn't put it any further south than it is, because as as the road goes, where the access point is to Newman's gravel pit, there's actually a vertical curve and a little bit of a horizontal swing as you go down to Honeybee Lake Road. And with larger slow-moving trucks slowing and stopping and pulling out into the road, vertical and horizontal curves are not good for safety. So it should be as far away from Newman's gravel pit access drive as possible. And I think 600 feet, as shown here, is probably adequate.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. If there's any questions, I promise I won't talk as much.
Anybody else for public testimony? Anybody online? I am closing public testimony. Sir?
Madam Chair and board members, we accept the recommendations and conditions for platting, and Walter Newman is, I can attest for him, he's concerned with the neighbors also. But, you know, it's, and if anyone has any questions or whatever, they can get a hold of him, and he's at the station most of the time. So,
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
thank you.
Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the preliminary plat of the Cove at Jean Lake, Section 19, Township 19, North, Range 4 West, Seward Meridian, Alaska, contingent on staff recommendations 1 through 12.
Thank you. Any second?
I second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any objections?
Just real quickly, what the surveyor had just said is a recommendation for maybe our public comment and the developer could chat together. Is that what you were saying? Okay, just kind of want to make sure that you heard that he's open to that. Because I appreciate your breakdown there. That's very thorough and qualified.
I want to say that D. Newman is a great guy, operates well, honest, straight as an arrow, does earthwork for me up on our property on the lake. Known him for 25 plus years. Good guy. I trust him. But money and the dollars for a waterfront lot seemingly against a back lot, I can understand where, without thinking too deeply about it, you could think that I can get more money quicker by selling these maximized number of lots on the waterfront. And that does a disservice to the lake, and truly at the end of the day, it doesn't have to impact his revenue.
I was going to point out that if this is approved as it's standing, there would be nothing preventing you from trying to talk to the developer, and maybe through the process, you can do minor lot changes if so desired. But I will say, as we've noticed, these lots are actually a little bigger than they needed to be. I mean, he could have gone 0.92 and just got, but I mean, I think that there's some there. I'm just saying that you still have time to talk to the petitioner, and if you can convince him of these are changes that can be made outside of the public process. Reducing lots are allowed, but like I'm just, it's not, your ideas aren't all done, there's still a possibility if you can convince the owner that there might be some value in that. But as the process sits for us, as you're aware of your experience, it meets our requirements and it actually exceeds them in a lot of places. So I think that I think they've put this development, they've put a lot of thought into the development and they're trying to do the right thing. But like I said, it's not over. You can still, lot consolidations don't have to come back before us. If they decide not to do 33, you can take a lot out and make a park, or if that's so desired, if that argument floats with everybody. I'm just saying that's a change that we can make outside of the process. Other than that, thank you. I really appreciate your detailed handout here. Thank you.
There was a meeting of a mention of an additional requirement that may not have been in the initial packet. I just want to make sure that that is captured in the motion and the readout to additional recommendations of approval.
Yes, when the staff reads the additionals in, that's when we say with the staff recommendations. But did we add those numbers in that? I couldn't hear. Yeah, excellent. Then we covered it.
Thank you.
Yes, we did.
Thank you for
Thank you for
clarifying.
pointing it out. I'm having a hard time hearing today. I can't get this ear to pop. Okay.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, is there any objections? No objections? The plat has been approved. Comments from the board?
No items of miscellaneous, the Platting staff. So, we have 2 cases currently for the next meeting on the 20th. We will also, it's not on your list, but there will also be a presentation given by myself at the request of the Platting Board to discuss comprehensive plans. And then I wanted to get clarification. I believe the recording, or Mr. Cohn requested something about variances, but we were hearing a vacation at that. So there was some confusion if you wanted variances or vacations, and I can still do both. So, okay, that's what I get. That was one of those, hey, Shard, should I polish my boots before I go on leaves questions? Okay.
It comes up.
I've got an outline for both of those, and we'll have that presentation after the hearings at the items of business and miscellaneous section at the next meeting. I appreciate everybody's time, and it looks like winter's back for a little while.
Okay, board comments? Mr. Burtz? Ms. Krieger? Ms. Salmon? Mr. Shavetta? Mr. Cohn?
No, I do not.
All right, nobody's got any comments. Well, I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and this meeting is adjourned at 1:44.